You know what? Let's just roll right into winners and losers. 10:03 already. Let's run through these real quick. Winners and losers from the weekend. That's all six major conferences, by the way. Um, this is right. The NCAA tournament. The first couple rounds are awesome. Conference tournament week is close behind, though. This was a lot of fun too, and hopefully we can get all of these tournaments played and finished up without the pandemic having too big of a role to play in that. And of course, that sentiment is still there. It is there for the NCAA tournament as well. But let's roll right into not predictions, winners and losers from the weekend. Mr. Doring, who's your winner?
I got 2 winners and 2 losers. If
Okay.
that's
Oh
okay.
boy.
Well, you didn't run it by us first, but that's okay. Go
No,
on.
no, I didn't.
It's not like we can fix it now. Go on.
And if somebody wants to steal one of them, feel free.
Okay.
My one winner I'm going to mention quickly is Michigan State, just because that win did
Sure.
wonders,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
I think it's a 95% chance they're in the NCAA tournament, and it got them a matchup. Well, not that win in particular, but they've got a matchup with Maryland, which is exactly what you want. Helps your resume, can't really hurt it. So somehow, some way, Tom Izzo found a way to do it. My other winner is Manchester United. They beat Manchester City again. I talked about this as my best game of the weekend on Friday with Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Ended City's 21 game winning streak.
Mm-hmm.
They capitalized on the few mistakes that City made. We don't have to go into a lot of detail here, but at halftime, I felt that it was inevitable City was going to score at least twice and win. And somehow United found a way to defend really well and finally actually, hold on to the ball for more than 2 seconds at a time in the second half. They were great.
Mm-hmm.
Helps them top 4 race momentum, winning a rivalry game. Got to give them credit. That was a very impressive performance. Are we doing losers now too? Or do we want to save those?
Let's run through winners completely. Chris, who's your winner?
Yeah, I thought about going with Michigan State, but I had a feeling it was going to come up, so I went in a different direction. I'm going with another team that we mentioned a minute ago, or I don't know if it was on air or off air, the Ramblers, Loyola Chicago. They're heading back to the NCAA tournament as an automatic qualifier out of the Missouri Valley, knocking off Drake in the tournament title game over the weekend. One of the key contributors in their win against Drake, Cameron Crutwig, a name that sounded a bit familiar to me. He was a key contributor as a freshman on their 2018 Final Four team. They look like they're capable of a fun run. Again, I'm not saying I'm predicting a Final Four run here, but, entering yesterday, Jerry Palm had them as a 12 seed. If that were to hold, it would be a team that no 5 seed wants to face. But
I think they're going to be a single
guessing,
digit.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, I think that there's no way they're not a single digit seed now after defeating Drake. Either way, they're going to be a team that could make an interesting run here. And I still hope Drake gets in. Joe Lenardi has them as one of his last 4 in when I checked this morning. So Drake, fingers crossed, they deserve it. They need to get in there as well in the NCAA tournament.
Their coach was quoted after that game talking about how everybody's coming back. So that's awesome that Drake is going to be they're going to be awesome. They're going to be one of the best mid-majors in the country, not just they should be better than Loyola Chicago next year. And should be the best team in that conference, but they should also be one of the best mid-majors, which is awesome because it's Drake, and that just doesn't, as we've talked about earlier in the season, what Drake is doing, this doesn't happen for Drake. Drake isn't a perennial mid-major powerhouse, and they were this year, and they're going to be, in theory, even better next year.
Mm-hmm.
My winner is Bryson DeChambeau, but golf as an extension of Bryson DeChambeau, because golf is really lucky because their quirkiest guy and the guy who right now pushes more clicks and views than everybody and is the guy that you just can't take your eyes off of because how he approaches the game is also one of the best players on the PGA Tour. I mean, Bryson's hitting 377-yard drives, having 88 yards into a 580-yard par 5. Think about that for a second. Because he just took a line across the water that nobody ever takes, and he's weird and quirky and emotional and shouts out his sponsors in the post-round interview after he wins, and he's just, you can't take your eyes off of him. And he's a content machine in every way, and like And in a similar way to Tiger Woods, he makes people who are casual sports fans pay attention to golf because he's just that interesting, right? Tiger was dominant in a way that few people have been dominant in their sport ever. But what Bryson does is, even if it's not initially because of what he does on the course from a winning perspective, people are paying attention. And then he goes and wins golf tournaments. He won the U.S. Open back in the fall. He won at Bay Hill on Sunday in conditions. There were only 3 players under par in the final round. He wins in tough golf tournaments. He's impossible to take your eyes off of. And he checks all of those boxes. Like, typically the quirkiest guy is not one of the best. But right now on the PGA Tour, their quirkiest player and their weirdest player and their must-watch player is also one of the best on tour. And that's a phenomenal thing for any sport, but specifically golf, and they have that right now. So my winner is DeChambeau for winning the Arnold Palmer Invitational over the weekend, but golf as an extension of that, because that's a really good thing for the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. Get people's attention who normally wouldn't necessarily be given it. You wouldn't be focused in. He just sort of captures, like, you see the highlights on on social media, you see something and you just see him, and it draws you in, even if you're not a huge hardcore fan, for sure.
Josh is your loser.
All right, so I wanted to mention Drake, so I'm glad you brought that up, Chris. I feel awful for this team. They went out there without their 2 best players and almost got blown out, but then put together a run, got right back into the game, and just didn't have enough down the stretch, because Loyola is a much better team than Drake at this point without, the players Drake is missing. And so I feel terrible for them, because they would not be in this position if they were still healthy. Even if Roman Penn was healthy, they still probably wouldn't be in this position. They'd feel much better about their chances of making the tournament. Now it's very iffy. I just hope that the committee puts them in. And yes, I'm so happy that they're all coming back next year, because they've got something special. So hopefully they can stay healthy and really play up to their potential. So since we mentioned that, my loser is the dunk contest. You talked about this before we went live, Josh, that Cassius Stanley had the best dunk and then didn't advance because his second dunk was terrible. And it was just, we need to find a way to do something differently here. It has lost so much of its grandeur and just excitement surrounding it. That, to me, the headline event is the 3-point shootout at this point, because guys like Steph go do what Steph.
Mike was so close. He was so close. He put up a number in the final round, and then Steph happened. Get out of here. Why do we have to have the 3-point shot that's like that's a normal 3-pointer for Steph? When Steph, like the extra one in between where it was like 5 feet behind the 3-point line, Steph's needs to be like 10 feet behind the 3-point line, because the 5 feet behind the 3-point line is just a normal shot for Steph.
Right.
If the point is to make one that's harder to make, then Steph needs to take 5 more steps back, because that's where we're like pushing the boundaries of his range, kinda.
Well, you could also argue that him taking him right on the 3-point line is also unnatural for him.
That might be fair, because he pretty, right. The defense is so spread out, right? That he has to take step backs. He probably, I wonder when the last time he took a 3-pointer that was really that close to the 3-point line in an actual game. It probably doesn't happen all that often. Man, I thought he was going to win it. I was like, Mike Conley's taken over Atlanta, Georgia, taken over All-Star Weekend, but no. Steph Curry, story of my life. But yeah, it was a weird night for the NBA, and it felt forced. Like All-Star Weekend felt forced. Just, I mean, give the people the recognition, right? Have All-Star teams, but there might not be anything in sports that's more reliable on. I mean, can you imagine having a home run derby where there was nobody out in the stands to catch the home runs? You know what that is?
Sound like fun.
You know what that is? Batting practice. Batting practice.
Yeah.
Literally.
I mean, you're not.
And even people show up for that.
Right.
That's true.
I mean, what we got to see was a pickup game where there were no fans to go ooh and ah to the things that were happening in the pickup game. And the dunk contest was weird. they need to get rid of it if they're not gonna like. I mean, there's no point. There really isn't. Nobody's watching it. The dunks are just not super fun, and they're even less fun because it's Cassius Stanley, Anthony Simons, and Obi Toppin doing the dunks, not LeBron James and Dwight Howard and Blake Griffin and Nate Robinson. Like, there's no casual fan's gonna watch that, because the only reason you would watch is like, oh my gosh, LeBron James is in the dunk contest. That's awesome. Let's watch LeBron be in the dunk contest. Nobody cares that it's Cassius Stanley. My loser was All-Star Weekend.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
Because it was just, I mean, there are some things that, right, there are things, in this pandemic that fall into several categories. There's the things that you just shouldn't do. There's the things that you should probably try and find a way to make happen. Full seasons, those kind of things, trying to get back to living some sort of a normal life, even if it's, wear your mask and try to do the things you're supposed to kind of thing. And then there are things that have been forced that maybe aren't worth making happen. And the All-Star game and the All-Star weekend falls into that category, because the only thing that happens is the NBA falls under criticism because they're trying to force something that really isn't that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. And then it just looks bad. I mean, it's 170 to 150 score. And I know that's slightly arbitrary because of the way that the All-Star game is played now. Without fans, and there's nobody to cheer on Steph Curry while he's making three-pointers. It's just Chris Webber trying to go as crazy as he possibly can to make up for it. And then the dunk contest is bad. It was forced. It wasn't necessary. And there's literally nothing that you can do from a production standpoint to make it feel like a normal All-Star weekend. It's just painfully obvious that there's nobody there. And it was pretty hard to watch. And it's also just, it's like 2.5 hours and it's all done, right? Because the 3-point contest is right before, the dunk contest is during halftime. It's not like it's a couple night event where everybody's there and everybody's families are there and it's fun. And it's, like when in a home run derby, you got guys hanging out with their kids on the foul lines, and you got little children running all over the place, catching.
Because Paul's kid was there.
Sure, but the point is still the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was just weird, and probably not worth it. So All-Star Weekend, for those reasons, but also just because it wasn't fun to watch. And if the All-Star Weekend isn't fun to watch, then what's the point? There isn't right. One, because it's a show. That's the whole point. And it just wasn't really that.
Yeah, not a fan of the put everything on the same night. I'm a big believer in the Saturday night, Sunday night, split them up. And so hopefully this is just a pandemic thing.
Sure. Yeah.
Where you're trying to make it more efficient, but that didn't help.
And I don't need the All-Star weekend to be efficient. I need it to be ridiculous.
Right.
And if you need to make it efficient to make it happen, maybe it's just not worth doing. Yeah. Chris, who's your loser?
Yeah, we kind of already talked about my loser, and in fact, it's a group. It's Big East bubble teams. Correct me if I'm missing something. I really don't think I am now, because I've looked at it a couple times. But it looks like, looking at various bracketology, there are just 3 Big East teams that are really a lock for the NCAA tournament. Villanova, Creighton, and UConn. We talked about those 3 a good deal here not long ago. Anybody want to guess when the last time 3 or fewer Big East teams made the NCAA tournament? It's been a while.
How many teams?
3 or fewer. When they didn't get to 4. Last time it didn't get to 4 teams.
It's got to be after the realignment, though, right?
Is it ever?
1993. Last time that we didn't get to 4 Big East teams reaching the NCAA tournament.
How many teams were in the conference at that point? Do you know?
In 1993?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
I'll go look. I got you.
Okay.
Big East Index. 92, 93. let's see, 92, 93. You had a 14. There were 10 teams. 14 and 4 Seton Hall, 12 and 6 St. John's, and 9 and 9 Pitt.
There were a lot of teams that were in the NIT that year.
What in the world? Like Pitt finished. There were 1, 2, 3, 4 teams that finished 9 and 9. There were actually 9 teams that won 7 or more games, and then there was Villanova, who was 3 and 15. But everybody beat up on each other, and I guess nobody had. I mean, Syracuse was 20 and 9 and didn't make the tournament that year.
Okay, because I was gonna say it can't. The extended Big East. There's no way they only got 3 teams in because they had so many teams.
Mm-hmm.
So
right. It was 4 in 2019 last NCAA tournament, but before that, working backwards, it's 6, 7, 5, 6, 4, 8, 9. So it's clearly consistently around 5 plus. But anyway, we obviously Xavier's the team that has the best shot of those other Big East teams, but right now I'm seeing them listed as a last 4 in, and Seton Hall as a first 4 out, and St. John's as a next 4 out. So we've talked about this a good bit already, but I think it's going to make the Big East tournament interesting, even though it may not be super, the most inspiring, got to turn this on for the casual fan. You've got a lot of teams that are playing for a lot, right? You got Xavier, Seton Hall, St. John's, all with a realistic chance to make the NCAA tournament, but things are going to have to work out for them in the Big East tournament. So plenty of teams with a lot to play for that are not among the very top teams in that conference. For
sure. It's a big week and if you had to pick a conference you'd want to be in as a bubble team, it's probably the Big East, because there, like as we talked about, there is a path to, as a 4 or 5, like you feel really good about your chances of getting to the championship game with Villanova on your side of the bracket right now. And so that the opportunity is there, but we're still talking about a lot of teams on the bubble and not a lot of teams for sure in the tournament when it comes to the Big East. Thank you for making us part of your day here at 110 Daily. We'll be back on Friday unless something crazy happens between now and then. And we will see you then. Enjoy the week. Until we see you then, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we will see you here on Friday.